Simon Marks joins me now from Washington, D.C. Simon, what did you make of those speeches?
Well, I thought it was pretty pro forma on both sides, really, Ian. I mean, those speeches are always, they always follow a pattern at these state dinners. I mean, it felt that on both sides there was a bit of an absence of personality being injected into either of those remarks. I think there were some slightly dangerous moments when President Trump departed from the text, and you wondered whether he was going to engage in one of his Trumpian ad libs, but he did return to the text pretty swiftly in order to continue with those remarks. I mean, there were some things that were immediately evident to me. The King speaking at length about his commitment to the environment and talking about preserving majestic coastlines and rivers and national parks, and implying that that is a shared value between the United Kingdom and the United States. Far from evident at all that President Trump shares that outlook or is making that any kind of a priority. If anything, he's actually dismantling regulations that are in place to protect the environment in the United States. So I think there was a bit of a stretch in those comments. Also, when the King spoke about the United Kingdom and the United States being united in fervent support of Ukraine and committed to deterring aggression, it was notable that the R word didn't appear there anywhere. Russian aggression was not specifically cited. So they definitely must have gone to an effort to remove any reference to Russia from His Majesty's comments there. And Donald Trump speaking, as you will have heard, about, the word special does not even do justice to the nature of the relationship between the United States and the UK. He noted something that he's very proud of, having returned the bust of Winston Churchill to the Oval Office, and certainly articulated the cadences of developing an ever closer tie between his United States and the United Kingdom. And yet, going into those talks tomorrow that you were talking about between the President and the Prime Minister, there is so much now that divides them. I mean, while President Trump is there in the UK, this country is still absolutely frothing with disagreement over threats by the Trump administration to root out the president's political enemies that he accuses of funding and supporting acts of terrorism, political violence on American soil. The Gaza issue tonight, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said the most important thing that is going to happen in New York at the UN General Assembly next week is, from his perspective, a special session that the French have called on advancing the two-state solution. That's not an issue where, as you were noting, the President and the Prime Minister are going to find any common ground. And Gaza, of course, completely not mentioned in either of those speeches by either His Majesty or the American President, on a night of pageantry, splendour at Windsor, but also a night of some really unbelievably straitened circumstances and difficulties for the population, particularly of Gaza City, as they may make their way out of the city, fearing that the Israeli onslaught is about to begin that will forever drive them from Gaza. So, look, I mean, I think they did what they both had to do. I certainly think there were some cutaway shots there on the video of those speeches that indicated at least some on the British side were waiting for the speeches to end so they could get on with dinner and bring all of this to a rapid conclusion. There didn't seem to be a lot of joy on anyone's faces, particularly as those remarks were made and as they wrapped up.
Just looking at the pictures from the dinner now, Donald Trump is sat between the King and the Princess of Wales. I mean, I don't know how the seating plans are always organised for these things, but he will appreciate the people who he's sat between, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Look, we know that Donald Trump really covets the relationship that he says he has with the King, with Prince William, and I think by extension with the Princess of Wales. And he made very warm comments about both of those in the toast that he just delivered. And his relationship with royalty is very important to him. That is precisely why Keir Starmer and the King have played this card this early in the second term of his presidency. He ad-libbed at the beginning of his toast where he was talking about his hope, his joy in being the first American president to be honoured with a second state visit, and his hope that maybe he might be the last, because he'd like this little footnote in history to accompany his biography for the rest of time. So we know that he covets royalty. We know that he really wants to maintain these relationships. And yet, in the background, there is still the criticism that has been levelled against the United Kingdom over the Online Safety Act, what Marco Rubio, who's sitting prominently there, insists are threats to freedom of expression in the UK. We know that just 10 days ago or so, Nigel Farage was here in Washington, D.C., testifying before the House Judiciary Committee, comparing the situation in the UK to that of North Korea. And there is every likelihood that once this state visit is over, the Trump administration is going to continue advancing down that path of going after the British government, because at the end of the day, they are much more philosophically and ideologically attuned with Nigel Farage and Reform UK than they are certainly with Keir Starmer and arguably with Kemi Badenoch of the Conservative Party. So I think, the interesting question to me is, in a year's time, on September the 17th, 2026, what is this state visit going to look like? Was it sensible? Will it be judged prudent to have used basically the only major card that you've got in your arsenal, a royal visit, a state visit, a royal encounter with the monarch and with the heir to the throne? Was it sensible to use that this early? We're only in the 9th month of Donald Trump's second term in office. We've got another 3 years and 3 months to get through here. What happens after all of this is over, and what does it look like in a year's time?
Because it hasn't worked on steel tariffs, has it? In that there are a lot of steel workers in this country really now fearing for the future of the whole of the steel industry because of the tariffs that President Trump is imposing. There was a hope, I think the government thought, that they would cave in and there would be zero tariffs. There seems to be no prospect of that now.
I mean, unless there's a hat that's going to be a rabbit that's going to be pulled out of the hat tomorrow. Look, tariffs, as Donald Trump always says, are his favourite word in the English language. This is not someone who believes that he's on the wrong track with the global trade war. You heard him in those comments, and again, he was ad-libbing, talking about how the United States is the hottest country right now. He's genuinely convinced himself that the American economy is not only secure, but thriving under his auspices, even to the point of when unwelcome news is delivered to him, like weaker than anticipated job numbers, he simply fires the messenger, fired the head of the Bureau of Labour of Statistics a few weeks ago because he didn't like the numbers that were being presented to him. So tariffs are the defining facet, not just of his trade policy, but also of his foreign and diplomatic policy. He uses tariffs to punish his enemies, and he reduces tariffs to help out his friends. But that only goes part of the way because he's committed to the concept of tariffs. So whether Sir Keir Starmer can truly engage in putting additional pressure on him in a bid to try and secure the alleviation that the UK wants to see and those steel workers desperately need to see, I think is a very open question and will be a real test of the solidity in practical terms of a relationship that they are both there tonight extolling and suggesting is, unbelievably special, the most special relationship any two countries could possibly have anywhere in the world. I mean, the reality actually doesn't bear that claim out.
Let's finish with two snubs, because President Trump said to the King, "You've raised one very good son." An implicit insult to Prince Harry, probably meant. But also a snub by Keir Starmer, because Nigel Farage was not invited to this state dinner.
Yeah, so I mean, I absolutely immediately noticed the line about "you've raised one son, one good son." Look, Donald Trump has not hidden his antipathy to either Prince Harry or Meghan Markle. It's pretty clear that he has no particular sympathy for them, that they are absolutely not reflective of his own personal political and philosophical viewpoint. And, that may be one of the reasons why the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have looked at acquiring property in other parts of the world alongside the home that they have in Montecito out in California. I mean, on the Nigel Farage issue, that's an interesting decision by the Prime Minister, and possibly one that is not entirely risk-free for him in terms of his own relationship with the president. I mean, it was Nigel Farage who was in the Oval Office. He was having lunch with Donald Trump just within the last couple of weeks after he testified before the House Judiciary Committee. It is evident to everyone that Nigel Farage is the British politician, whatever you think of him, with the closest and warmest relationship with this American president. The notion that he's not there tonight is definitely something that many people in Donald Trump's entourage will absolutely notice, because Mr. Farage has so many friends within that entourage, and there will be those who argue that it would have been better to have him inside the banquet rather than outside peering in.
Well phrased, if I may say so. Just finally, did you know that apparently Bear Grylls was being considered to be our ambassador to the US when Peter Mandelson got the job?
I did not know that.
No, I didn't.
Is he being considered again?
Oh, well, I have no idea. I found that out yesterday, and I must admit, I thought, has the world gone completely mad?